industry and the future of fashion. Two of them were students like you, and now Ashley's graduated. I think Jack is graduated as well. So you can kind of hear what it's like to work in the fashion industry from them. If you know, do you guys all know Gareth, right? So Ashley's Gareth's sister, just FYI, give you a little heads up. But here, I'm going to go through these little slides here. So next week, can everybody see my screen? If you can see my screen, put your thumbs up. Okay. So next week, or this whole week, I mean, is shoe engineering week. So today we have a Zoom call. And then we have another one on Wednesday with Steve Cavallero. He's a pro skater. He's a good friend of ours, but he's going to talk about how the half cab got invented for Vans. And then Thursday, if you want to come to Weston Skate Park, we're going to have an open skate session from like 10 to 12, but we're also going to set up a table that you can work on your shoe designs. And then Friday is when you bring your shoe design to the Museum of Graffiti at 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay. And you're going to drop your shoe with me, and then you're going to go have fun at the museum. They're going to give you a tour, which is this really awesome artist that knows everything about graffiti. It's pretty amazing. And then our friends at Path to Hip Hop are going to have a fashion designer there, and they're going to work on like this cool activity with you guys. And then you can go grab lunch if you want, and then come down to lot 11, and we're going to have all the shoes set up, and we're going to have some fun skating. We're going to have Colossal Academy is going to be there doing a fashion show of the clothes they designed. And then we have all these guest judges. They're going to be there judging your shoes. Okay. And so if you've ever driven to Miami and seen the big oranges painted on the wall, that's Atomico. He's going to be there judging. And then a guy from a band that I love called Tribe Called Quest, Jerobi, he just got inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's going to be a judge. And then I think Joseph and Alex, you went to the art gallery with us, right? With Brian. So Brian's going to be there judging as well. He's an artist. So we'll have a couple guest judges, and then we are going to have a lot of fun that day. So to get in the museum, you need your shoe design, and you're going to give them to me at the door. And then we're going to bring them down to the skate park. Okay. So your shoe has to be like 3-dimensional, like a model. You only need to make one shoe, and you can make out of any material. It can be paper, cardboard, Legos, clay. Some people are 3D printing, any of that. And you have to talk about how your shoe is going to be better for the environment, how it's going to help reduce injuries, how it's going to be more durable. I see one of you has your hand raised. It says Reese and Ryder. If you want to ask a question, you can.
Yeah, can I make it out of candy? Because I was planning to do that.
You can make it out of candy as long as it's 3-dimensional.
Awesomeness.
It
Okay.
could be a gummy bear shoe. I'm totally okay with that. Okay. And so on our website, we have a couple of like templates for shoes that you can look at. If you go to our Engineering the Future curriculum, there's a whole lesson of how to make a cardboard shoe. You can even use an old shoe and redesign it. That's fine. And then we'll have that thing on Thursday where you can come and use some of the materials we have. And then you can listen to the Zoom calls to get some ideas, okay? So the next thing, here's our schedule. So Wednesday, if you get on Zoom at 1 o'clock, you can hear from Cab. He's a really good friend of ours and a really cool guy, but he's going to tell us the whole story of how the half cab got made. And then on Thursday, we're at the skate park. And then Friday, this is our schedule. So 10 o'clock, you check in. 10 to noon, you're going to do the tour of the museum. Then you can have a little break and go grab lunch. And then 1 to 3 will be at the skate park, okay? So with that, we're gonna get started. Did anybody else have any questions before we get started? Okay, well, let me introduce, I'm gonna start with Fry, um she's been in fashion for a little while. She's been doing fashion design and consulting. And she has worked with some people like Beyonce and Jay-Z and Nicki Minaj, which is pretty cool, right? And she's also the head of the Virgil Abloh Postmodern Scholarship Fund and Equity Division. So I don't know if any of you know who Virgil Abloh is, but he was a skater and he got into fashion design. He worked for a company called Off-White and then started working for Louis Vuitton. And he was friends with a lot of our local skaters here in Miami. And unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. But to continue the legacy of all the things he did, they started this scholarship fund for young students to get into fashion. So she'll talk a little bit about that. And then she also competed in Netflix Next in Fashion show. And now she advocates for diversity and equity and inclusion in the industry of fashion. So that's pretty cool. Then we have Ashley Redway. She actually was part of Surfskate Science. She was one of our first classes we ever started. She used to come to class with us. She graduated in fashion merchandising, and she was a recipient of the Virgil Abloh Postmodern Scholarship and the Incline Future Icon Award. And she's going to talk a little bit about her project that she worked on with skate shoes and sustainability that got her into this scholarship program. And she's been able to intern at places like Louis Vuitton and Bulgari. So that's a little bit about Ashley. Reese and Ryder, do you all have a question?
Yeah, what does it mean to be like get the scholarship for whatever it's called?
Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna have them share in just a second, and then at the end, save your questions, and you can ask them anything that they didn't cover. All right. So then we have Jack, and so Jack, I just met today on the computer, but we were talking online because he has been 3D printing skate shoes, which I thought was pretty cool. And he has a company called Spore Designs, and he won the scholarship twice now, the Fashion Scholarship Fund, and he also won in 2022 the Global Footwear Awards, and he graduated in accessory design from the Savannah College of Art and Design. And what's really cool about his shoes is he blends a little bit of biology with technology, so he makes really sustainable shoes. And he uses some really cool influences like action figures and video games to make you kind of think about the future when he's designing his shoes. So he'll share a little bit about that. So I guess we'll get started. I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick. Hopefully, let's see. Is it? Okay. So let's start with Ashley. All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Ashley, could you just share a little bit about how you got into it's asking me to start your video, sorry. How you got into fashion merchandising and and fashion in general, why you wanted to go into that and just a little bit of your background?
Yeah, for sure. So, I think the most, I don't know, it's cringy to say, but I've always been interested in fashion. I've always liked fashion, but I knew that I didn't want to do fashion design. I don't think I'm that sort of creative. I'm definitely creative, but just not in that way. And so I was just searching for ways to try and be in the industry but not be in design. So I learned that there are actually a lot of different career opportunities. You can do merchandising, which is basically like a mix between the business aspects of fashion and then the creative aspects. So you're kind of like the translator for the design people and the finance people, which is cool. And then I can also do like a lot of marketing and promotion stuff. So I went to school after being in surf skate and being with the Feliciartis, who are my neighbors, so a lot of skating stuff that I learned from them, and then also my little brother Gareth, who most of you probably know him. But yeah, that's how I got into fashion, and then how I applied to the scholarship was a professor told me about it, and it's actually a funny story because I was kind of bummed out because the summer going into my senior year, I wanted to get an internship in New York City and I didn't get one. And so I ended up coming home and I interned in Miami Beach. That's kind of irrelevant to the story. But that summer, I spent a lot of time with my brother and Eden, like so much time. They were driving me crazy. I was driving them all over the place to skate parks and stuff. And in the back of my head, I knew my professor told me that I needed to pick a company that I was going to work with for this case study. And so after spending time with them, I realized that, well, one, having a little brother who's always complaining for like new boards and new shoes and always running out of stuff, I realized that it was an issue that skaters go through shoes really fast. And then I also, when I was going to skate parks with them, I was just observing and really surprised that majority of people weren't wearing Vans. It was mostly like Nike SB and Adidas, stuff like that, which I thought was kind of odd because I feel like Vans is, you think of skating, you think of Vans. And so that's kind of how I got started on my case study and decided to try and merge sustainability with also using the brand Vans and trying to get them to become more relevant, I guess.
That's cool. So yeah, so skaters, they usually go through their shoes like in a month. We were talking about it the other day. So so when they go through shoes, first of all, it's really expensive. And then secondly, they end up in a landfill somewhere. So what did your project do to change that a little bit?
Yeah, so first I started doing a lot of research, and as you were saying, I learned that skaters create 20% more waste from shoes than the average person and also spend 20% more on shoes than the average person just because they deteriorate so quickly. So I did a lot of research on different types of shoes that were using new technologies to try and last longer. And I actually was inspired by I forget what they're called, but those Adidas that like turned purple. Eden had them that summer, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, I need to try and do something like this. But they just turned purple really quickly, and I feel like they were like he had them one day, and then the next day they were already all the way purple. So I was trying to find a way to do something like that, make it sustainable. And so I decided to use biodegradable rubber to kind of do a design like the Adidas ones. And those were similar to the Adidas one, but they just lasted a lot longer with the material that I use. And also the material that I use is better for the environment. So that was my idea.
Yeah, so the shoe she's talking about was a shoe that had multiple layers. So when you skate the shoe, the first layer would wear off and it would change into a different color. So like Nike SB makes a lot of those where you have like multiple layers of fabric. So as your shoes wear down, they go into different fabrics or different colors, which is super cool. So so Ashley, now that you graduated, you got to work at some cool places. We got to go visit Ashley in New York and she was working at Louis Vuitton, which if any of you know about Louis Vuitton, it's a pretty awesome place to intern. And so now what have you learned along the way? What were like some of the biggest lessons and surprises about being in the fashion industry?
I think the main surprises for me was just being in the luxury sector. I always knew I wanted to be in fashion, but I was never necessarily the type of person who said that I needed to be in luxury. And so these positions kind of fell into my lap through hard work and networking that I've done. It's actually really funny that like I interned at Louis Vuitton over the summer and now I'm working at Bulgari. And both of these positions I didn't apply for. It was just happened through networking, which is so amazing. And I feel like that's how the best opportunities always happen. But it definitely was a change in mindset because I'm the type of person who I feel like luxury is a little bit unethical because people are spending thousands and thousands of dollars on one shirt where there are people who are homeless on the street and don't have food. So I kind of had to figure out a way to justify that to myself and to work for these companies and find a way to be able to feel like I'm doing meaningful work and making a difference within these huge corporations. And when you're such a small person within such a huge global company, sometimes you feel like what you're doing isn't making a big impact. So I think that was the kind of the mindset, trying to figure out how I can, I guess, just realign myself to make myself feel like I'm doing something meaningful. Because does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I think this semester we're talking about engineering the future. So obviously we're talking about how are you going to engineer a better future? And that means like through engineering, so like shoe design and stuff, but also how can you make things better for the future? So that takes like say you're in high fashion and what can you do in that field to make a difference in the future? So there's a lot of ways people are doing things like that, which is cool. So we all can make a big difference. So I think I have a couple more questions. So as far as skate shoe design, so I know like, you know, a couple of the companies you've worked for have shoes and you know a lot about skate shoes just from having a brother that skates and goes through them like crazy. So what do you think could be some good ideas for a future skate shoe that is going to be different and better for the future? What are some things that you like, some kind of advice that you can give these kids as they design their shoe to make a better skate shoe for the future?
I'm honestly not sure. I'd say just stay open-minded. I think a lot of the materials and elements that are used, people wouldn't have automatically thought to use them for skate shoes. So just staying open-minded to materials that you can use. I even love that somebody was asking to use candy. Like, I think that's really important to whatever you do in life, just not being closed off, because when you're open-minded, you are able to receive so many more blessings and opportunities just come your way. So yeah, that's the advice. And then the other advice I'd give is just, if you're not into design, there's so many other options of ways you can get into the fashion industry and still be a creative without actually, like, there's product development, which is cool. You can kind of figuring out how to source the materials that are in the product rather than designing it. And there's also like marketing, which is selling the product and trying to, I guess, get people to want to buy it, stuff like that. There's a lot of different options. So I definitely say, like, if you're interested in being fashion, research, even like you could use ChatGPT, what are the different jobs in the fashion industry, and you'll learn so much.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Ashley. I appreciate it. It's nice to see you. Miss you. Come home soon.
Yes, I will. I'll be home for Thanksgiving, so I'll see you guys
Awesome.
soon.
I'll see you. And okay, so I guess next we are going to have Jack jump on. So let me see. I'm trying to figure out how I can remove spotlight from Ashley and have Jack jump up here. Hello. So hi Jack, how are you?
Good, good. Thanks for having me.
It's nice to have you here. So Jack, I found from I was looking for pictures of Ashley and saw his picture on the web on their Instagram and saw that he was designing 3D skate shoes, 3D printed skate shoes. And so we love to 3D print at our house. We actually have some of like the rubber 3D printing um filament that we use. So I thought it was really interesting and I would love to hear a little bit about your journey, how you started your skate shoe company and what motivated you to start 3D printing shoes.
Yeah. So just high school, my kind of upbringing, I always knew just from like the influence and support of my mom, always knew I wanted to go into like the creative route. I've had some family members who kind of went similarly. And in high school, I really decided on fashion as the main, like I started a small streetwear brand just because I was really, really interested in everything going around me, kind of getting a little bored of school. So I was like, let me create, let me do something, get my hands dirty. Going into college, I was like, if I'm going to be doing something like long term, I love shoes and how they're basically functional art and you can't just perceive it from one angle. It's just the complexity I was really interested in. So I studied accessory design at SCAD, very traditional, like cobbler style, like cut and sew, leather, traditional, almost like European kind of education. And then towards the second half of my college education, I really dived into 3D printing. I started using Gravity Sketch, which is like a VR headset that you're able to like sculpt and play with, like almost like it's a Play-Doh. I am super dyslexic, so I'm a very creative person, but math and numbers and like just goes right over my head. So I hesitant to getting into 3D printing just because of the dense kind of interfaces, 3D modeling, all the different buttons I had to click and keep up with. So Gravity Sketch was a really good get my foot in the door. From there, through Fashion Scholarship Fund, I used some of the money from the scholarship to buy my first 3D printer. From there, I have like 3 or 4 now. So it's just kind of like snowballed from there. But yeah, I started kind of took my brand in high school, evolved that kind of throughout the years. And it's more like a umbrella for all of my design work, primarily footwear, but I do a lot of different stuff. And yeah, 3D printing. I work with this company, Zellerfeld, in Germany. Germany has a lot of really cool 3D printing stuff if you want to research that further. But their company is set up to where you can use Face ID scanning technology, scan your foot. They 3D print it, a customized shoe, all perfect for you. And then it's made out of a TPU rather than rubber. So you are probably familiar with 3D printing TPU, but it's actually more durable than rubbers. And they created this foaming TPU that just I think that's like, again, that next evolution to where like it's more durable. It's a mono material, so it's really easy to recycle. So I just saw that framework and I thought it was a really unique way, kind of what Ashley had mentioned earlier about how, skaters and athletes in general just blow through their shoes way more than the traditional average person. So allowing a technology to be more harmonious in terms of performance as well as sustainability, I thought was really interesting.
So yeah, I saw that you had some like really cool influences, and if you get a chance to go check out the Spore shoe or Spore designs on Instagram, there's some really cool designs. So you had some influences. You wrote about like action figures and video games. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that inspires your shoe designs?
Yeah, I'm a little bit non-traditional in terms of how I design. A lot of people they like to just gesture, sketch, and just like kind of get it out of them freely. I do that, but I'm more of a collage brain. I like to hybridize and collage and remix, things together. So I will, watch a sci-fi movie and see like the nose on a dragon. I'll be like, oh, that'd be a really cool detail on the back of the shoe. And then like I'll watch another movie and I see, a jaw of a different creature or something like that. I mean, specifically with like right now at my current role, I suck at color. Color is my Achilles heel. I'm trying to get a lot better at it. But I just bought the Pokemon entire, like every single Pokemon, listing them out, and that's great colorway. You know what I mean? Inspiration. So like little things, kind of like how Ashley mentioned, thinking outside of the box. If you guys know the Adidas Ultra Boost or the Nike React, a lot of those foams were originally used in like airplane insulation. So like different materials, taking things out of context, moving them into different areas. There's so much like power to that.
That was awesome. So I'm going to ask you that kind of the same thing. Where do you think skate shoes are going to go in the future? And what are some ideas that you have that you might be able to share with the students about the future of skate shoe design?
Yeah, I think the direction everything's going right now is for it to be meaningful. You don't want to just create something to create something because then that's just wasteful. And there's like, you can tell a story, like be artistic, creative, have your own perspective. I think for designers who are starting out, take what you're really passionate about and infuse that into what you enjoy, like skate. And like, for example, I have a really good friend, Joey. He's a wrestler, loves wrestling, but he also collects a bunch of Halloween masks and he makes his own Halloween masks at home. So now his new kind of part of his character that he does as a wrestler, he like makes a mask and he rips his face off. Little things that like make him unique and like very like he combines his passion. So I think if you go that route, take whatever you enjoy, try to combine the two. There's going to be other people who feel similarly about that. So like they're always a good way to approach things. In terms of the industry as a whole, I think just customization is huge. So modular things being able to like taken apart almost like Legos, like you can add different, swap in different laces, you know, change the color by adding in a different booty. Or you can look at it in terms of accessibility. So I saw Nike did some shoes a few years ago that you didn't really need to lace them. You could just step into them. So thinking about accessibility as well as sustainability, I think that there's a lot of potential there. Really, and as well, look at like a tire company. What are they doing with their rubber that's sustainable and new and innovative, and see how you can maybe bring that to the skate industry. You don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel. You can just bring a lot of good ideas into something great. That makes sense.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm sure they're going to have questions for you at the end.
Have to.
Right. Hello. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
So could you introduce yourself and kind of tell us what you do?
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Farai Samoy. So I work as the head of the Virgil Abloh Postmodern Scholarship Fund and also focus on equity. So my work revolves around ensuring that we're creating an equitable fashion industry. So as you heard from Ashley and Jack, you know, they talked about not only just coming into the industry as a designer, but also looking at the industry holistically. So that's ensuring that we're providing opportunities for anyone across the board to enter the industry. And so I've been working for about 18, going on 19 years. I think earlier you all saw that some of the designers or the celebrities that I worked for are Nicki Minaj. I think you guys know Nicki Minaj, right? Yeah. Designed for Jay-Z, for Robert Rodriguez, for Beyonce. So these were some of my celebrity clients. And my journey has been sort of up and down and all over the place. And I think Ashley was saying earlier that, you know, there's so many different aspects to the creative industry. You don't just have to go into it as a designer. So when I first started, I was a technical designer. Do you guys know what a technical designer is? So a technical designer is somebody that's creating all the measurements for your garment. So is everybody wearing a shirt? You can look at your shirt and look at how long your sleeve is, right? So some people's sleeves maybe go right above their elbow. My sleeve goes underneath my elbow. So there's somebody out there that's saying we should make this sleeve 10 inches, or even let's look at how long our pants are today, right? Or our shirts. There's somebody that's saying, I want to make this a crop pant. So I'm going to make the pant 12 inches long, or I want to make this pant really wide leg. I'm going to make it 20 inches wide. So I started the industry doing that. And it's so cool because I get to figure out how a garment is going to look. And then from there went into designing. I did a little bit of production. And production is making sure that you're sewing all of the pieces of a garment together. So you can even look at that with shoes, right? There's so many different pieces that make a shoe. So there's somebody in production is going to take the sole of the shoe, the right side, the left side, the top side of the shoe, and sew it all together. So that's part of production. And then of course you have to look at sales and marketing, right? So you guys know what sales is. So when you go into the store and you're walking around, what pulls you towards a certain shirt or a certain color? That's somebody on a sales and marketing team that's saying, you know what, I think Reese would like the color green and in a long shirt, and I'm going to put this in the store. So Reese, when you go to the store, you're going to pull that shirt because you like it. Or maybe, you know, I think Alex would like a purple shirt with cool figures all over it. That's somebody on the marketing team. So there's so many parts of the fashion industry. So I think it's important for all of us to get to learn. And for me, I wanted to make sure that I worked in all these really cool parts of the industry. And that's why I'm where I am today.
So can you tell us a little bit about the Fashion Scholarship Fund and Virgil Abloh Foundation and what you do with them? Just so the kids know, because they did have some questions, what that looks like.
Yeah, so you all will learn that going into any industry, but we'll talk specifically the fashion industry, is very expensive, right? I'm sure Ashley and Jack can talk a lot about the companies that they've worked for, or when they're designing their own collections, it takes money. So what the scholarship fund does is we ensure that we're giving young people, so when you are a little bit older, money so that you can either go to school to get your degree or use that money to create mini collections, or even if you get an internship across the world somewhere, you can use that money. So we give away anywhere from $10,000 all the way to $25,000. And that is so much money that you can do to create really cool things. And so within the scholarship fund, you get money. That's the number one thing, right? But then we also give you mentorships. So some of the top designers in the world, especially the designers that worked with Virgil Abloh, who was an amazing skater and designer, we connect people with different mentors because it's important to learn from others. Do any of you all have mentors that you work with? So a mentor can be, a parent, it can be a mom and dad, it can be an aunt and uncle, it can be, somebody that works down the street at a store that you talk to and you get advice from them. So that's what a mentor is. And it doesn't matter what age you are. I'm 41 and I have mentors. My mom is in her 70s. She has mentors. And so all of you that are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it's a really good time to get a mentor because it's important to get advice, right, on different things that you're working on. So we also do things like fireside chats with industry leaders so you can learn from them, and then doing workshops. So I know that you guys all do workshops within your organization. So we are really big on hands-on learning. So you guys are going to make shoes. Somebody said they wanted to make shoes out of candy. We do all types of workshops so people learn how to navigate the fashion industry. Oh, so Adrina, you have a mentor? Is that what I got from that? That's great.
So my next question would be, so can you tell us a little bit more about Virgil Abloh and how he merged skate culture and high fashion and how that inspires what you're doing today and the legacy that you are carrying on for him?
Yeah, so Virgil is pretty phenomenal and he's been a barrier breaker in the industry. So we talk about bringing different influences when you're designing, right? So Virgil brought skate culture, streetwear, high fashion, his heritage. He's originally from Ghana. That's where his family's from. And he blended all of those elements into creating all of his collections. And I think one thing that we all love and admire about Virgil was that he wanted to ensure that fashion was inclusive, right? Jack talked about fashion being inclusive from an accessibility standpoint. So this is designing for, people with disabilities, people with neurodiversity. I'm sure we all have family members that are sitting in wheelchairs. It's time to start considering them when we're designing. So that's what I loved about Virgil. He looked at fashion from, a holistic view, ensuring that every single person, young and old, that are considered in fashion. And so when you all are all designing, consider using different inspirations that you have. So let's say, I think we talked about Pokemon. Let's say you love Pokemon, and Pokemon, I think one of them is the color yellow, is pulling those inspirations into your design. Or maybe there's some people here from South America or different parts of Africa, or maybe even Mexico or Florida, right? Oh, wait, Joseph, where are you from?
I'm from Florida.
You're from Florida. Okay, awesome. Anybody else? How about Zoe? Where are you from, Zoe?
Miami.
You're from Miami? Okay, great. So it's using all of those inspirations. And so right now I'm in Philadelphia, right? And we have this character named Rocky who ran up some stairs and he was a boxer. So maybe I'm going to use the idea of boxing gloves and the laces that are on boxing gloves to create my shoe design. So that's what Virgil was all about. He was all about taking things that are near and dear to you and things that inspire you and use that into your shoes. So that's what we love about Virgil, and I think something for you all to consider.
And I think another thing that Virgil was all about too, which Ashley mentioned too, is networking and community. So he was always, every time he was down here, we have a couple of friends that are skaters that are models now because of Virgil, because he got him into the fashion industry. And so that was something I always hear, is that he was all about community and about bringing like his friends in and finding like the gifts and stuff and other people and the passions and really like encouraging people. So I think that's great, that that's also what the scholarship fund's doing, is really giving people tools and the like wind beneath their wings to be able to go and take off and explore what they're passionate about.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So sustainability in fashion. So we're that's one of the big things when they're designing the shoes this week. They
Mhm.
have to think about sustainability, and that includes durability, because when you're skateboarding, you are constantly adding friction to your shoes and wearing your shoes down. They also need to think about how the shoes are engineered to reduce injury. So skateboarders are putting a ton of pressure on their feet, and that's something a lot of people don't think about, is how are these shoes and the insoles engineered to reduce injury and impact. And then they also have to have them look nice, because it's not going to be okay to have a shoe that reduces injury or is sustainable if it's ugly, is what we keep talking about. So how are we going to do that? Do you have any like tips and how they can look into different materials and different ways to do those three things?
Yeah. So I think sustainability is all about exploration. There is not one right answer and one wrong answer of how you can get to an end product. And so for me, when I'm thinking about sustainability, I look at it as a challenge. And one of the big conversations we're having is called zero waste design. Do you guys know what zero waste is? Right? It's ensuring that we're not putting more things into the landfill. So when you're creating a shoe or a garment, you want to use all the scraps of fabric or all the materials that you have. So a good challenge for you all to be explorative, sorry, I think I said that right, is grab a bucket, right? Grab a bucket that you have in your house and put a bunch of different materials in there, right? You can maybe, you have some old stuffies that you have some old fabrics or jackets from your parents or things that you don't wear anymore. Find some things in your backyard and throw everything into a bucket and try to design a shoe using all the pieces that are in that bucket. I think that's a really great way for you to challenge yourself on zero waste. And sometimes I think some of the best ideas come out of, we always talk about expansion, but sometimes some of the best ideas come out of like sort of like inhibiting yourself just in that creative aspect to see what you can create. So I always say challenge yourself to do zero waste design, because that's when some really, really cool magical things can happen. And I think somebody said my shoes. Whose shoes are, oh, Reese and Ryder, you guys are making, and Alexandra, you guys are making zero waste shoes?
Yeah, so I told them too they could take old shoes that they have and redesign them. So they could use the old soles or the old fabric and redesign them. So they have lots of different ways to do it.
That's great. That's the best way. And it's so fun.
I have one last question for you, and then I'm gonna let the kids ask some questions. So if any of these kids are really excited about fashion and want to get into the fashion industry, do you have any quick tips for them?
Yeah, I think learn from each other. We talked about how Virgil Abloh talked about community. Like when you're designing, show your friends what you're making, get their feedback on it, because we all make each other stronger. We all make each other better. So anytime I create a design, I call my designer friends and say, hey, what do you think? Should I place the shoelace here? Should I place the button there? And that pushes me to get even better. I watch so many different documentaries. If your parents have access to Netflix and it's a PG rated movie and it's a documentary, watch what other creatives and designers are doing, because you learn so much. And I think Jack talked about it. It's never about reinventing the wheel. It's about how can you make the wheel even better and for it to fit modern times. So always look at what other people are doing. And I would also say, learn the language of fashion. There's this whole other language of fashion in terms of even talking about, what is a lapel? What is a 12 gauge button? What is a godet? What is a wide leg? What is a flare? These are all words that we use in fashion. So make sure you learn the language, because you want to get into a room with somebody, say you're pitching Van's a shoe idea. You want to be able to get in that room and talk about, you know, the length of the shoestring, the colors that you chose, the inspiration, the season. So always know and be prepared at all times. I always say you should always have a 30-second pitch in your back pocket. You know, like if you get stuck on an elevator, let's say today you got stuck on an elevator with Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift says, I'm going to give you $1 million to start a shoe brand. Tell me why I should give that to you. You should have a 30-second pitch ready to go to tell her, because you want to make sure by the time that elevator door opens that she's written you $1 million check for you to start your shoe brand. So always be prepared. And I'll leave you with that.
That's a great one. Okay, so yeah, definitely work on your pitch for Friday, because we're gonna have all these judges and you'll be able to win prizes for the top picked shoes. So it's kind of fun, and we have some really good prizes. So definitely get ready with that pitch. Do any of you have questions that you want to ask Ashley or Jack or Farai? You can go ahead. So Zoe, I'll let you go first because I saw your hand first. I'm gonna have you unmute and then you can ask your question.
Have you ever gotten have you ever gotten stuck designing a shoe?
What'd you say?
I think that might be for Jack.
Yeah, Jack.
Yeah, all the time. I think finding that creative block, it happens pretty consistently. It's just kind of the nature of it. But I like currently right now, I'm kind of like doing a little bit of vacation. So I'm in the mountains, I'm enjoying myself, I'm going skiing, I'm trying to like, for myself, I stare at shoes like all day. It's my job. So it's like constantly what I'm thinking about. So when I go out with friends or like when I'm working on something, a lot of the times I don't look at shoes to inspire it. I'll look at something like a plane or a car or something really completely opposite. And usually that will kind of get my gears turning. But definitely if you get to that point where you're feeling, okay, I'm hitting a brick wall, take a step away from it for a day, maybe work on something a little bit different and then come back to it. And I promise you'll have a bunch of different ideas just flowing.
Yeah. Alex, I think you had a question. You can unmute yourself.
What are the prizes?
What are the prizes? Oh, well, we have some skateboards. We have actually some Pokemon cards, like a really cool big pack of Pokemon cards. We've got a lot of different things. Yuli has a lot of prizes. Yuli, you want to say a little bit about prizes that you might give away? Can you unmute yourself? He's not there. Well, he's got a bunch of prizes. So I don't know. He's trying to unmute, I think. So we have skateboards. We have a bunch of different toys, but some bigger things than we usually have like in the treasure box per se. So we have some Santa Cruz skateboard completes that we're going to give away, and a lot of cool things. I see some Pokemon cards there. So they're all, yeah. So we have a lot of cool prizes. So you're going to be able to get first, second, and third from the judges, and then we're gonna have a people's choice so that all the people that come can vote on their favorite shoes. So we'll have a bunch of prizes for everybody. Does anybody else? Joseph, you can ask a question. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Jack, what's your Instagram?
Oh, I think you're muted, Jack.
Sorry. It is Jack H. Winkler, JACKHWINKLER. And my art account, you can also find it on there. It's Spore, SPORE.design, DESIGN.
I did see, Joseph, I did see on his Instagram, I think today he was drawing like some fish or something that was an inspiration for a shoe design, but you got to check out his shoe designs because they're super cool. I think you'll really like them.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm here. Sorry, I had my thing muted. I'm sorry, but yeah, we have plenty of prizes, guys. Don't worry about that.
So Alexander, the Noskov, so you guys have a question? You can go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, I had a question. Where is this event going to be? It's on Friday, right?
On Friday. So we're meeting at 10 o'clock at the Museum of Graffiti in Miami. And you're gonna drop off your shoe design with us, and that's gonna be your ticket to get into the museum. And so then you're gonna have some fun at the museum. If you haven't been there before, it's awesome. And then our friends at Path to Hip Hop are gonna do a big workshop with you all. And then you can go grab lunch. And then afterwards, we're gonna go to Lot 11 Skate Park, which is only a few minutes away. And we're gonna have all the shoes on display. And you'll get to kind of just enjoy the skate park, skate around, and meet the judges and see all Colossal Academy's clothing designs they made.
That's cool. So we can make the shoe out of any material, right? Just has to resemble a shoe.
Yeah, it just has to be 3D, and you only need to make one shoe. You don't need to make a pair. All
Okay.
right.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
So does anybody else have questions for Fry, Ashley, or Jack about fashion design or being in the fashion industry?
Are they going to be judges?
Yes, we will have judges. We have a couple guest judges. We have 2 artists that are from Miami. And then also a guy named Jerobi who is in a band called Tribe Called Quest. He's gonna be down there judging for us as well. So
Who
for us,
else, Tony? Who else?
maybe Uncle Luke, maybe, but we have a couple like hip hop artists, a couple artists that are just like are different like street artists in Miami. So we have a couple cool people that I know who they are. I don't think you guys will know who they are, but you'll get to meet them.
But you know what, guys? Honestly, it really doesn't matter. What matters is getting your designs, meeting other students, and inspiring each other. I mean, how exciting that you guys have an opportunity to design something that might inspire somebody else. And you never know to see your design created. I mean, I've had friends that just had an idea, shared the idea, next you know it, he gets to see his idea, you know, be created. So it's a neat thing. And there's gonna be that the fashion show and lot 11 to 6 skate parks. So we'll have lots of fun skateboarding too.
I think Ashley wanted to say something. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, snowballing off of that, it really doesn't matter. Like, you never know who you're talking to, and exposure is always good. So always be nice to whoever you're talking to. Always take every opportunity, even if it's something that you're like, I don't really know if I want to do this. I'm not sure. Just do it. Put yourself out there because I mean, I would not have gotten any of the positions that I have now if I didn't just put myself out there and do random things to be able to meet people. And that's really how like this industry works. I feel like it's really just based off of who you know. Obviously talent as well, but knowing the right people can help you get a lot further.
So I think I'm gonna ask Ira has a question. You want to unmute yourself and ask your question? I think you're still muted. Hold on. There you go.
How long is the how long are we gonna be at the Museum of Graffiti? And like how long?
The museum, I think, will be there probably like an hour and a half or so. And you'll really like it. It's a lot of fun. And the guy who gives the tour is so much fun. And then we're gonna get to make something before we go. But I don't even know what it's gonna be. So it's gonna be something really cool. So I don't know if we're making like little skate shoes or our little skateboards. They're coming up with the idea now. So it's gonna be fun. All right. Zoe,
Okay.
did you have a question?
Do we get to explain our shoes?
Yes, so you'll be able to talk to the judges and tell them about your shoe. You can also make a little poster to go with it to tell a little bit about your shoe or an ad. That's a great way to share about your shoe. So if you want to skate and not stand there the whole time, you could do that as well. But either way, okay. Alexandra and you guys, no scopes?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, there's still space to register for the event, right?
You should be fine. If you have any
Okay.
problem, you can just message me. And
All
then
right.
Reed, you had a question? Yeah, are you there? Okay, so everybody, if you could just take a minute to thank Ashley, Jack, and Fry for coming out and taking the time to do this. Ashley's at work in a break room taking a break. Jack's on vacation. Fry's busy woman here working really hard. So just thank them for taking the time to talk to us. It's a really big deal, and we really appreciate them.
Thank
Can I
you.
say thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And then
It's awesome. Thank you so much.
any more questions? If you think of questions for them you want to ask, I can always message them. If you have questions for Yuli or I, you can just message us, okay? I think all your parents have our number to text us. Okay? And I'm gonna let them all get back to work and
I
start
have a question. I have a
questions.
question is it Jack?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I wanna see your friend's Halloween collection, man. Halloween mask collection is what I want to see.
Oh, we're
That just
working on some
sounds
stuff
so
together down the
creative.
line.
That just sounds so creative.
You're gonna have to follow them on Instagram.
That sounds so good. I'm gonna have to check that out.
No, yeah, I'll message it to you. Definitely.
Well, they told us it was like thank you. But then
Yep.
they lied.
So
Bye,
I'll
Yuli.
do a follow-up. I'll share
Bye.
information, more about them. Bye, you
Skate
guys.
camps tomorrow, guys.
Bye.
Thank y'all
Bye,
for
you
the opportunity. Have a good day.
Bye.
much.
Skate camps tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Have a nice day.